if you don't believe in yourself at some level, you're not going to go attempt that thing or try to get in better shape or get a better job or whatever. If you have zero belief in yourself, you have to do things. You have to maybe set really small goals and achieve them, try to build on that. You have to start accomplishing some things so that you do have reasons to believe in yourself.
Well, Nate, I'm obviously familiar with your work, but I'm reading over this resume and it just feels like it's kind of all over the place. And I'm sure you've had amazing experiences at all of your stops, but is there a moment that you feel like was one of those seminal moments, one of those core memories that we learn about from Inside Out that you feel like set you on the path that you're currently on, where you were like, I know that this is where I'm supposed to be?
Man, I don't know if there's certainly one because the path keeps changing for sure. To your point, a little all over the place is an understatement. I feel like every 4 or 5 years, I'm doing something completely different than I was doing just before. There's definitely like the big shift in, I think, the way that I lived my life and my motivation for living my life was definitely when I went to the Darfur and did some relief work back in, I guess this was in 2004. I was 23 years old. Um, I I graduated high school and wanted to play college sports somewhere. I was playing baseball and basketball in high school, and I was good but not great. So I didn't have any scholarship offers or anything like that. And ended up just kind of moving on from that. And I started working on a fishing boat, took some firefighting classes, thought maybe I wanted to do that. And then I was kind of 50-50 on that too. Not that I don't think it's an incredibly honorable job. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I was good enough. You know what I mean? Or that I didn't want somebody's life in my hands at that point. Um, and so I just sort of drifted for a while, for about 4 years. And not that I didn't learn a lot and kind of see a lot and do a lot, but I didn't have a purpose and a certain direction. I had no idea which way I was going. And when I went to the Darfur, I was only there for about 60 days, but I just volunteered at the refugee camps. And the people there just completely changed my life. I mean, shifted my focus on what was important and what made me feel of value. And, you know, feeling for the first time like you're needed and that that people genuinely appreciate every little thing, and you're just you being there, just you showing up. So that definitely was a big shift because then I came home with this idea that I was going to join the military, and I'd never genuinely thought about that, or at least seriously thought about it. For me, I'd kind of toyed with it when I was in high school, but I think looking back, I was just messing with my parents more than anything because I had no idea what I wanted to do. Um, and so, yeah, I found out about what the Green Berets did, the Army Special Forces, and I just was like, finally had a clear, focused goal of this is what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to quit. I know that much. And I sort of went out on that path, and the rest of my life since then has sort of operated in a similar way. Like I find something that I'm interested in, I go check it out, learn about it, and if it's something that I'm passionate about, then I'm going to do it to the umpteenth degree. You know what I mean? Every time, and that really started with that trip. That was the moment going to the Darfur, and just kind of breaking away from uh, this the a kind of a comfortable existence, even though I didn't have anything. I was dead broke, but like I didn't really challenge myself, until that moment.
Nate, I think what you said of, when you find something that you're interested in, you just go for it. What what made you, after never playing organized football, think I'm going to go to college and I'm going to play on the football team?
Yeah, I mean, football was always my favorite sport growing up, even though I didn't play at a young age, and it was just a regret that I had of not playing. It sounds kind of silly, but it was my favorite sport. I was a Joe Montana fan, and you know, as a little kid, and I mean the entire 49ers team. I grew up in the Bay Area. And so when I was little, that was, you know, the dynasty. They won 4 Super Bowls that I remember. The first one was the year I was born, so I don't remember that one. Um, but that was just like, I mean, that was the pinnacle of athletic achievement. You know, to be a 49er one day would be incredible. And then I was kind of a late bloomer. I'm a late bloomer in life all the way through, not just with my growth spurt. I always kind of go to things. I'm a little late to the party, and you know, I'm always old. I'm always the oldest person attempting to do something. It feels like anyway. But you know, and it just was like, all right, I was 29. I was in Iraq. I knew I did want to go to college. I finally felt ready, and I was like, well, if I'm going to go, I might as well just try out for the football team, because you've always wanted to do it. And who knows? I mean, worst that can happen is you get cut. Like, who cares? Just life goes on. It's all good. You got to try. So I started training for it. I was in Iraq, and I was running routes in the desert and trying to learn how to backpedal, and, you know, YouTube, Google, how do you play football? And then just training for it. And that was my free time on deployment, like just all dedicated to that, which was a great distraction, you know, from everything else we got going on, because what we're doing is pretty intense and hard.
What did everybody around you think when you just started Googling how to play football?
I was by myself when I was doing all that stuff. This was all Nate time. Yeah. So when you're in the Green Berets, you're on 12-man teams. So it's very small. And you are living typically in a off a typical post, you know. So we had, our team house was a good hour, I think, maybe a little less, from like the nearest base, you know, where there was a lot of troops and all that. So it's a very different situation. We had, you know, Iraqi guards guarded the outside of our compound. They were up in like towers, sort of patrolling, and then it was a small university that we had that was no longer being used as a university that we moved into. So our operations center was there, and that's where we all lived. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to have my own room. It wasn't much, but it was great. You know, a lot of people over there, there's 20 people in one room, you know, on cots. And I had a little air mattress. Like, I was living large. And then we had this little makeshift gym that we built. And so I would, you know, we'd get back from a mission at 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and I would go work out, and then go outside at sunrise and do some of the drills. You know, if I was wound up, I wasn't tired. And then a lot of our missions happen at night anyway. And then you sleep a little bit in the day, and then train some of the Iraqi soldiers, and, you know, do the other things you got to do. But I mean, the people that noticed it the most were probably the guards, the Iraqi guards up in the towers, and they would be like watching me, like, what is this guy doing? I'm like, turn around, pay attention, you know, don't worry about me. But yeah, it was, you know, I remember that feeling, and I get this feeling a lot when I have my sights set on something and I know it's challenging and I'm not sure I can do it, but I'm going for it. It's like this, that's the most alive I ever feel. And that's like, when I look back on anything I've ever done, whether I've succeeded or failed, those were the most enjoyable moments, where I just was like, man, I'm going for it. This thing seems impossible, but I'm just going to go for it. And then I just dive in, and I don't know. I can't really describe the feeling very well, but it's like, it's way better than any feeling you get when you get to the top of the mountain, or, you know, win the game. I mean, that's awesome too. But those moments when you're like, man, I know I am up against it, and it would be so much easier to just quit and keep living your life, and no one's going to think less of you, but maybe I will think less of myself if I don't.
Nate, people who don't have that kind of confidence don't understand how someone can walk into a situation like that. I'm sure that a lot of people have asked you, like, what made you think that you could do it? Did you face resistance when you decided that you wanted to be a college football player? I mean, I know you walked into a decent situation as far as the team was very relevant. You know, they were a team that people expected to do well, but I
Yeah.
almost feel like you couldn't have asked for a better coach to have, in that, you wanting to go onto his team. And I could be wrong about that, but did you face much resistance from the Longhorn program?
I mean, no, but they also could tell I had prepared for this. I mean, I had to go to tryouts like everybody else. There's 100 kids at tryouts, and only I think 3 of us got picked. Um, and it's just and to clarify, I didn't have that belief for most of my life. I mean, from when I was, uh, I guess early teens until mid 20s, or even maybe a little bit later than that, until I, earned that Green Beret, and like I just got through it. Uh, I didn't have that kind of self confidence. I was very insecure. I still have, I mean, we all have insecurities. I still have, a lot of insecurity. That's probably why I try to do so many things, because I'm just so insecure. Uh, but I think growing up, I I didn't think I was very special, and probably very capable. Didn't feel like I just was good at anything. I thought it was, you know, just okay. And, uh, and so I don't know. I think in life you have to give yourself reasons to believe, which is there's such a catch 22 here, because if you don't believe in yourself at some level, you're not going to go attempt that thing, or try to get in better shape or get a better job or whatever, if you have zero belief in yourself. But you have to do things. You have to maybe set really small goals and achieve them and try to build on that. You have to start accomplishing some things so that you do have reasons to believe in yourself. You can't just, at least in my opinion, you don't just choose to believe something. You have to, like, you can choose to uh, um, learn about something, or choose to um, uh, explore something, I guess. But like, to actually believe in something, whether it's God or yourself or whatever, you have to, like, you can say all day, I believe in myself, but that doesn't mean that it's true. You know what I mean? It's like a feeling that you have when you actually are like, okay, I know I can do this. And you don't achieve that feeling until you kind of fail a little bit, put yourself out there and kind of go for it, and reach that point where you're just not, you're not all the, you're not quite able to get there yet. So how, okay, I need to work on X, Y, and Z so I can get to that place. I don't know how well I'm explaining this, probably not well at all, but that's like, yeah, that's that for me. That was really it. It was just like, once I did not care so much about what everybody else thought, and stopped worried about the result and the scoreboard and like how it ends up, and just accepted the fact that I'm probably going to lose more than I win if I'm actually trying to do something hard and worth it, because most things in life that are worth it are not easy for whatever reason. So once I just was like, when I stopped worried about, yeah, the outcome, and just worried about the things that I could control. Um, Not that life got easier, life's still hard, but you start to get further along the path of whatever you're going for. And then you sort of stop and look back, and you're like, man, I remember when I thought I would never get to this point, and now I'm here, and this is like nothing. I've got so much more that I want to do. And then the point, the destination just keeps pushing itself out further and further. But for me, that's sort of life. That's how I enjoy life. I'm going out to Leadville next month in Colorado, and I'm going to try to run 100 miles. And I've never done anything like that. And we're going to be at 12,000 feet, and I'm
Wait,
training
hold on.
for it.
What is the furthest that you have run?
54. Well, my
Oh,
GPS said 56, but I just did that in
that
Scotland like a
feels
month ago.
That
Yeah.
feels like a lot.
it feels
Yeah.
very different than 100, Nate.
It is very different, but okay. So I'd never run more than probably, well, in the military, I don't know if running, we're ruck marching a lot. I've got rucksack on. And so I did very long movements in the special forces in that regard, but it's more like hiking that's not fun. And then, but so I ran my first marathon um, about a year and a half ago. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And then I was like, well, let me see if I can do this 50K, which is only a few more miles, and as a trail run through Griffith Park. And I did that a couple months after. And then I got busy, things started happening. And then I was like, man, I want to get back into doing that. I really enjoyed that, especially that trail run part. So I had this opportunity to go to Scotland last month and run this 54-mile trek through the Highlands, which was beautiful. And I did it, and it was really hard. And I realized by the end of that one, I was like, okay, no matter what the distance is, the last like 20-25% is the worst. No matter if it's a half marathon, whatever, if you're pushing yourself, you know what I mean? It just, so like, I'm like, all right, I don't know that I'm going to be able to finish it, the 100-mile thing. I don't know. I don't know what the altitude's going to do. But I know that just a year ago, 54 miles in the mountains sounded so insane. But then I did it, and I'm not going to say it was easy. It was certainly not easy, and it's painful, and you want to quit the whole time, but or not the whole time, but at least that second half. And I know I'm going to feel that all again, but I don't know. I'm like, I'll keep going, and maybe just like in that race, maybe all of a sudden I'll kind of get past halfway and be like, oh wow, this is already the farthest I've ever gone, and I'm still going. So I can do this, I can do this. And then the voice is on the other side. It's like, no, you can't. You're totally going to fail. You're totally going to quit at the next stop.
Do you think that's what it's about for you? It's about continuing to prove that voice wrong, or continuing to prove, I don't know, some celestial being or some existential idea that you can't do these things? Because there's got to be something motivating that desire to keep pushing yourself to new heights and new achievements.
Yeah, I think part of it is it really hurts me when people just, and kids too, like just don't believe in themselves at all. Just don't think they think they suck, and they're not good. They're not good people, because that turns into thinking you're not a good person. When you think I'm not good at something, it like develops into that. At least it did for me. When it's like, oh, I'm not, you know, I'm not super talented or smart or whatever. All of a sudden, you just think, you take that into this other place where you're like, oh, I'm just a bad person. You know what I mean? And that's not good. And I think for me, doing some of these things, it's because I know it does inspire people. And it's maybe one of the best ways for me to feel like I'm giving some people hope. And it could be something, it should be something completely unrelated to what I'm doing. But if they're just like, oh, wow, this guy went and did this thing, I can call my mom, or whatever. And I can fix this, and I can, I can get back, or maybe it's a physical health thing. I can get back in shape. Like I can do that. I can commit to going to the gym 5 days a week for an hour, or whatever. I mean, I'm just kind of being random here, but that makes me feel like I'm doing those things, even though they feel like they're a lot for me, because I love the challenge, and I love seeing what the body is capable of, and the mind. I mean, they're all connected. When I say the body, I'm talking about that too, because it is so mental. But we're like, I think as humans, we are designed to do incredible things. But we've also, because we're so smart, we've created this comfortable world where we've got air conditioning and, uh, internet, and where I'm talking to people all over the world in a matter of, milliseconds, you're hearing me. Like, that's crazy. And so with all of that, we lose sort of that past ancestry of like who we were and what we were capable of. Because I mean, I imagine humans, thousands of years ago were, especially ones that were very nomadic, like they're traveling hundreds of miles all the time. It's just part of life. That's just what you do. You don't even have shoes on. And so to think that we're your ancestors of that, I know that we're capable of all that stuff. And for me, I don't know. I love things they're kind of physically demanding, and where you feel like you're pushing yourself a bit to the brink of exhaustion, and but then you keep going, because when you get through, when I get through something like that, it really does open up my belief in other avenues of life that have nothing to do with physical activity. And I'm just like, I know I can be resilient and just continue to move forward. And I think I tell people this a lot. I really think it's true that like um, the what is that word? Um, that attrition. Attrition is like that's the number one factor in the world that kind of gets people. So if you can just hang on, hang on, you have to keep working and you have to keep moving forward and you have to keep learning and improving and all that. But if you just don't quit, so many other people will. I promise you, eventually, and that door will open. You just have to believe that. And if you don't, then I mean, I don't know what to tell you in that regard. I mean, I guess I'm sort of uh, contradicting myself and saying that you have to choose to believe that if you don't choose to believe something. But I mean, that's how I see it. Like, because I've seen it happen in my life and in other people's worlds. This like those that just keep going, eventually that door will open. And maybe it's not the door you thought it was going to be, but the universe, I think it does reward people that don't blame everybody else for their problems and takes ownership over certain things. And because I know, I mean, life's not fair. It's just not, but it's not fair for anybody. Um, and you just gotta keep taking that step every day and trying to get a little bit better. And eventually it is going to happen. Like you're going to get to that, you're going to get to a place where you feel that peace and know that, and just that gratitude for yourself of just not giving up. I think giving up is, quitting something unless it's like smoking cigarettes. Uh, there's no greater regret you'll have in life than quitting. You know.
So, Nate, talking about, the doors that open, and some of them are what you wouldn't expect them to be. Just going through some of the things in your life, the army, the playing college football, the making it to the NFL, actor, director, writer, all of these different things. Like, do you ever pause, or have you, and just think of what you've accomplished?
Um, I mean, I
No.
guess sometimes. Well, I mean, how long is the pause? I just did it. It's over.
And he's like, and now I don't have to do it for another year or so.
Yeah.
So thanks, Shelly.
Yep. Nope, not going to do this right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have because if I don't remember those things, I won't believe in myself for the next thing. If I don't remember like a lot, completing some of those things, achieving some of those things.
But there's a difference between drawing upon those things to remind yourself that you're capable of whatever your next challenge is and celebrating those things. And I wonder if you ever take a moment to celebrate
I don't do that
those
very well.
accomplishments.
No, that's something I need to work on for sure. Just generally enjoying life, and as it continues to pass by and, I don't know how long I'm going to live. Nobody knows. I feel like I'm about halfway there, but maybe I'm a lot closer. Hopefully I'm not, but you never know. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just the nature of mankind at certain stages. We start to think about different things, what's important now and what do I not want to look back on and say, I wish I would have done this or been more like this? Because everybody has it. I know I'm going to have it too somewhere. We all have those things,
Yep.
but trying to mitigate those, I think is important. So yeah, I'm kind of in that stage now where I'm still pushing hard and I'm doing a lot of different things and I've got new stuff happening, sort of work wise and all that, because I've put one thing I've sacrificed and put on hold for a long time is, relationships. And that's been a hard one for me. I've definitely had them and I've fallen in love and like and all of that stuff. But um, I know that I can't say I know. I assume having a family is quite a game changer, with like what you are able to do. And so it's not the way I've lived since I left the nest was kind of whatever I wanted to do, I could do, or pursue. And it wasn't really a conversation or a negotiation or,
Negotiation.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't, you have to consider that of course, when you do that, it's not just with your wife, it's your kids too. If you have those, it's like, what, what's best for everybody here. And what do you guys think? What would you like to do? And probably going to be some answers you don't want to hear sometimes, so I've been afraid of that. That's the biggest, it's like, I mean, I guess that's literally what fear of commitment is, but it's like, I'm so committed to all these other things and even other people, with stuff like MVP and, some of the the charity related things I've been involved in. They take a lot of time and a lot of energy. If you want to do them right, you have to do that. And so I'm certainly never not busy. And I choose all that. I mean, it's nobody else's fault. I pick all those things.
Yeah, kids are a game changer.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things. I mean, I'm 42 now, and it's like, all right, well, if you're gonna do this, like, probably do it pretty soon, like, and it's so that's running through my head, because I do love kids. I'm very lucky to have 4 nieces and nephews. My brother and sister has awesome kids, and so I get to be a part of their lives, but it's still different, And I know my mom is just like, come on, dude, we're not getting younger. You better do this before we leave. So yeah, so that's like that's one of those things that's when you talk about, enjoying your life, enjoying even those successes and all that. But yeah, more than just reflecting on them, like getting to celebrate them. That's something I've not done I failed at. For a long time. And so it's trying to recalibrate a little bit and I don't exactly know how to do that. I'm not automatically just good at stuff because I've done a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's something I'm in the process of exploring.
Nate, how familiar are you with the concept of achievement culture? Is that a phrase you've heard?
Hmm.
So it's this idea that like, and I'm the same age as you, so I feel like I kind of grew up in this space as well, but this idea of like us being valued for our achievements, like the more things you achieve, the more things you accomplish, the more value you have in the world and in
Yeah.
society. And as
Right.
I've gotten older, I've tried to like break away from, like, I would tell people, oh, I'm an overachiever. And
Right.
as I've gotten older, I was like, oh, that's just a trauma response. That's what that is. Like, that's like me responding to like never feeling good enough and always needing to prove myself. And so it's been
Right.
really valuable for me as I've gotten older to be like, oh, this is why I run the marathon. This is why I do the triathlon. This is why, right? Like this idea of, look at how great I am. I'm so good at all of these things. And that's in some way I was programmed to believe that meant I had value. So
Right.
do you
Yeah.
find that like as you're getting older, the things that you want to be identified by or remembered for or known for are changing at all?
Uh, Probably because I actually don't know what I want to be remembered for. I don't know. Excuse me. But that's a
It's
very
probably good
interesting.
that you're not giving a lot of thought to your own legacy also. Like that's probably a good thing too.
Okay. Oh, good, good.
But Nate,
Um,
think about what you're doing with MVP. Like you're going to be remembered for everything that you're doing with MVP.
yeah, I mean, I just hope MVP is remembered, and we we're able to continue to expand and grow and help more people and be more part of that. But yeah, I guess I haven't. But what'd you call it again? What's it called? Achievement culture.
Yeah.
Achievement culture.
He's going to be Googling that now.
Yeah, no, I will be. No, I mean that makes a lot of sense, and I mean it does. It does feel that way. I mean, you look at okay, now it's like in social media, it's like if you got more followers, obviously you're better, right? You're just a better person. you know?
Something I really am conscious of with my son, he's 14, like what metric he is using to
Yeah, right.
value himself, right? And you're
Yeah.
so
Or other
right.
people.
On social
Or other
media,
people
exactly. In
too.
social media, people use, like you said, followers and these numbers, and they are supposed to mean something about someone's worth or popularity. And it's
Yeah.
just, it's really, it can be a really toxic space.
Totally. And we all, well, I don't know about all of us, but a lot of us, myself included, um, we we battle that. We like think about that. Yeah, you wonder, why it feels like no one cares about this thing that you care so much about, or whatever. And then other things they just are obsessed with, and you're just like, why? That's so stupid. Why is that? And then you just make it just you make these judgments about yourself, and who you are based on like other people's, whether it's opinions or their insecurities or all this other stuff. It's just a mess. No, it's really hard to kind of come to grips with. And I hey, the achievement culture thing. I mean, I'm definitely a victim probably of
A
that. And
participant.
yeah, I hate the participant trophy thing. I'm not gonna lie. That's horrible. Not that we need to have these clearly defined winners and losers all the time, and we don't need to have trophies at all. I don't think. Um, but yeah, it's that's a tough one. Yeah, we are so result oriented. That's something that I try to continue to tell myself. And like I said earlier, by looking back on where I was happiest in this venture or whatever I was pursuing, it's never been at the end, with the win or the loss or whatever. It's always been in the middle of, in the thick of it. That's so remembering that is it helps me, kind of not be obsessed with, how it all turns out. But yeah, that's tough when you're aiming any age. I hate
Where
seeing
do
that in
where do you
people.
think your passion for giving back came from? I know you
Um,
talked about, turning point when you were over volunteering, but I guess talk a little bit about MVP and where that came from and how that
yeah.
started.
Well, I've always had a problem with like guilt. So I think it starts in its core there. Like even when I was little, we didn't always have a lot. I mean, we were pretty poor when I was little, actually. But I mean, relatively speaking to you know the society we live in. Um, but I had two parents that were together, and supported me, um, and I felt guilty because I was around a lot of other people and some of my friends that just didn't have that, and you go over to maybe play at their house and kind of see what life is like. And it's just like, man, this is rough. Um, and you feel, not everybody does. I would feel guilty instead of grateful. I feel guilty for having that because I'm like, I didn't do anything to deserve this. I was just born. You know what I mean? I was just lucky to be born. And like that there's still a big part of that in me. I still, and it's not all bad, to have that feeling, because that, I mean, I think it keeps you a bit, uh, humble and maintains perspective and makes me at least hungry to want to help. And I always say this phrase, fight for those that can't fight for themselves. That's something, it's one of the reasons I joined the military. It's something I definitely saw in the Darfur and many other places, but even back home in the States, just like, man, why was I so lucky to be dealt the hand that I was dealt? And, I've tried to flip that narrative in my head from guilt to responsibility, because it potentially creates the same actions, but it doesn't have that negativity around it. Because we talk about it in the military a lot, survivor's guilt, being those that came home and made it back, and especially those in good health, like myself. Like I relatively, I struggle with some things. I suffer from some things. I have some injuries, but by and large, I was very lucky. And so that can quickly turn into feeling very guilty. Like, why did I get out and, my buddy didn't, or he did and he's, you know, missing his legs or whatever it is. But instead of that, turning that narrative into, okay, now I have a responsibility. I did make it. I'm healthy. I'm uh, capable. Instead of sitting around just feeling bad about myself or feeling like I didn't deserve to come back or whatever, like, why don't you just do something about it? You have a responsibility now to honor those people, to honor that experience. And the fact that you did make it and you overcame all that and you're here makes you stronger. You have to now give back and you have to help people feel the same way, And so that's really what MVP is all about in a sense. I mean, yeah, we're merging vets and players and we're bringing together two people from different walks of life that, um, the battlefield and the ball field, just like it's made very clear in the movie as well. Like, that is not the same thing. We're not talking about comparing going to war and, the gridiron. But the locker room is very similar. The sacrifices, you have to sacrifice a lot to be elite. Of course, you're not sacrificing your life when you're playing sports uh, uh, often. I mean, once in a while, crazy things happen, but it's very different than war. We all get that. But the uniform identity, the structure, having it end at a fairly young age, like peaking at a young age, uh, and feeling like you'll never be great again before you're 30. That's a scary thing, and that's a very common thing that these people have with one another. And um, so one of the things we really try to focus on is like, okay, so you did all these things, which is awesome, and you should not forget that. But you know, don't rest on those laurels, and don't obsess over the things you wish you would have done different or better, because you can't change them, or like, oh, I wish I could have saved more people, or I wish I should have swallowed my pride and just, switched positions so I could have played longer, or whatever the thing is. Because we'll think about that stuff forever. It'll eat us alive, and we'll never break out of that until we just let it go. Um, and I know what all those things feel like. And I was in both of those locker rooms. I was very fortunate to be around the game of football and to be around the military and those people. And they're all so capable. And it's crazy how much these highly capable people can have just very little um, self worth, and think that they're just like, that's it. I did that thing. I tried my best. It didn't work out. And you're like, wait a minute. You played 10 years in the NFL, and, they're like, yeah, but I was a first round draft pick. I should have been the Hall of Famer. That's just like, oh my God, dude, you're crazy. Like, okay, you have all that anger and energy and regret. That's awesome. Like, let's use that and put it into something. You know what I mean? Because if you're just going to like sit there with all that energy, and it's just going to eat you alive, and it's going to kill you, literally. Um, Instead, like, let's focus that into something. What else are you into? And they're like, I don't know. I'm good at football, or I'm good at, you know, uh, military tactics. I don't know anything else. It's like, well, have you tried anything else? No, well, because I don't know. I don't know what I like. I'm like, well, I mean, come on, everybody likes something. I hate that answer. That is an answer I get all the time. They're like, I don't know what I'm into. I'm like, so you just do nothing all day? You just do nothing. You don't think about anything. You don't dream about anything. You don't watch anything on TV. You have no interests. Like, that's bullshit. Excuse my language. But it is. And then once you kind of they get past that, and they start, um, and a lot of guys, it's seamless and easy. There's people like, you look at like Michael Strahan's a great example that just, he did not slow down. He just, he felt that, but a lot of people don't. And, and yeah, I mean, that's really what MVP is all about more than anything. It's like, yeah, we get together on a weekly basis in the gym and we train together, and kind of, if we got heavy stuff we need to talk about, it's a safe place to be able to share that. But also, we're there to hold each other accountable and encourage, to like get back out there, try again. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. It doesn't matter how the losses you suffered, and the relationships that didn't work out and all those things. We all have that stuff. Everybody's got crap. So, if you're here on Earth still, and you've got, some time left to give it, wouldn't you rather spend it feeling those things you felt when you were on the field, or when you were preparing to go to battle and all that stuff? Like, you can still do that. So yeah, that's the narrative we're trying to shift, and looking at yourself in the way that being different is a good thing. The fact that you had that different experience is unique and awesome, and it doesn't mean that no one's going to understand you. They're probably going to look up to you. So leverage that. Don't throw it in people's face. Nobody owes you anything, but you know how to overcome and continue to push when others may not. And you're very lucky to have that in you.
Nate, we call this podcast Athletes Doing Good. What does that phrase mean to you, athletes doing good?
It doesn't have anything to do, when I think of it, when it pops in my head, it doesn't have anything to do with on the field achievement, honestly. To me, it just means sort of utilizing your platform, utilizing your ability to compete, and then finding a way to make the world a better place with that mindset and with that with those talents. Not everybody has those, and I think that athletes are so unique in the sense that they, especially professional athletes that play, or people that played at the highest level in whatever their sport is, like, they beat out so many people to get to that place. So many people. And yeah, maybe some of it's God's gift, and some of it's just hard work. Probably most of it's just hard work, because some of the most talented people ever don't achieve things. But I feel like the legacy that most human beings want to leave is that they were a good person. They did good things, and they treated other people in a good way. And so that's really what it's about. It's not about doing good on the field. It's about doing good off the field, and truly making a difference, and leaving the world better than you found it.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. And we'll be following your 100-mile run.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I'm putting it out in the universe way too much, so everybody knows I'm trying it now. So if I fail, then I'm going to have to go back, which sounds horrible.
Giannis told us that there is no failure in sport. I believe that was Giannis Antetokounmpo, 2023, who said that. Which I disagreed with entirely. Now, you want to talk about putting yourself out there, Nate? Start disagreeing with the most famous, most popular athlete in your state.
Yeah.
That's all right, Jen. Well, good luck, Nate. We'll be following.
There's definitely failures. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think about it, but yeah, there is. Well, if you quit, you fail. First of all, a lot of quitters.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. It doesn't mean that you failed for life. It just means you failed right now. You
can't learn from it. It just means that, like, you have to be able. I said you have to be able to acknowledge the failure in order to learn from it. You can't just pretend.
But I appreciate where he's coming from. I think
and what everybody has said, I always thought was a good perspective, was like, you got to think about where this kid came from, right? Like sharing sneakers with his brothers and selling tchotchkes on the street in order to make enough money for dinner. Like, there's a different success and failure maybe is different than it was for us.
Relative. It's very relative.
Yes.
So, hey, it was really great chatting with you. Thanks for taking the time today. Sorry for the delay on my part, but I'm really glad that we got this thing to the finish line.
Awesome. Thank you too, Shelley. Thanks.
We'll be in touch.